Disney still cannot figure out Star Wars, and Kathleen Kennedy is still a confirmed failure as a studio head. It's been 4 years since we launched Valiant Renegade here on YouTube. 4 years from the time that the Renegade Nation began growing. And it just so happens that today we have an opportunity to get back to our roots, because in the very beginning of this channel, Star Wars was a big deal, or at least the conversation about it was a big deal, not the way that Disney would hope. And lo and behold, we have a new article that came out yesterday. Daisy Ridley's Star Wars movie, that's Rey Palpatine, for those of you out there that don't know, enlists a new writer, George Who Gives a Crap. Now, the reason I say who gives a crap is because this is the fourth named individual that has been attached to this film in terms of writing credits. It's absurd. This movie was supposed to begin principal photography at least a year ago now. They walked Daisy Ridley out on stage during Star Wars Celebration in London back in April of 2023. You remember that one, when the whole Acolyte cast and crew came out to talk about their wonderful new endeavor that they were still working on. Yeah, we all know how that one went. Disney is still a failure at Star Wars, having spent $4 billion on it, and then take that $4 billion and summarily incinerate it by spending roughly $4 to $8 billion more in investment since then in building theme parks, creating new films, billions of dollars down the toilet that is Disney Plus, and they wind up with viewership that frankly is less than some rando Netflix movie of the week. That's how bad it is. By the way, that multi-billion-dollar toy line that Disney had, yeah, that's mostly gone now too. Except, of course, for Lego, which still pays Disney a decent little bit of money for their licensure for the Star Wars stuff. But everything they sell is OG George Lucas Star Wars. What we're going to talk about today with this rumor and walk you back through it, and we're going to remind folks what failure looks like. Renegade Online. I don't get into these kind of stories as much as I used to anymore, just because my brain has checked out so much from this crap. Who gives a shit, honestly? The Hollywood Reporter is saying now that after years of development, Daisy Ridley's Star Wars movie has a new writer with Ocean's 12 scribe George Nolfi joining the franchise. Does anybody care? Does anybody think this movie's going anywhere? We have gone through 2-3 writers so far. At least this is the third, if not fourth, headlining run. This is... Kathleen Kennedy is nothing more than, as we've stated many times, absolute Hollywood failure theater. And I am so sick and tired of listening to retarded people out there try to defend her because she was an executive producer on Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, Robert Zemeckis, Richard Donner, and Chris Columbus movies. No, sweetie, you did not make those great and memorable movies. You didn't make Raiders of the Lost Ark. You didn't create it. You had nothing to do with the story. Same thing goes for Star Wars. Same thing goes for The Goonies, Chris Columbus and Richard Donner. All that stuff in the 80s, E.T., whatever you want to throw your name on, that's fine. Executive producer has a very wide-ranging underlying meaning that we've covered many times before. She ain't it. Oh, she's got a great track record of success because of those films. No, she just happened to be at the right place at the right time, and she also wound up sleeping with and then marrying one of the guys involved in all those movies, Frank Marshall, who was good friends with Steven Spielberg and George Lucas and Richard Donner and all these guys. When Kathleen Kennedy is given her own shot at steering the vessel, it crashes. It's Lucasfilm since 2012, since Disney took it. It's been an absolute mess. It's been a disaster. It's been terrible. It's been horrible. Kathleen Kennedy is a disaster. She always has been a disaster. Up until 2012, she was always kept in her place. Somebody who would make phone calls and get certain folks together and bring in certain things, which is an important role, but that doesn't make you a creative. That doesn't necessarily mean that you will be a brilliant studio head. She got over her skis and felt like, well, I was part of all these big films. I can do this. How hard can it be? All these men did it, so I can do it too. Nope. George Lucas made Star Wars in 1977, the biggest thing ever in the history of film. And he only got a few $1 million from Fox to do it. Kathleen Kennedy spent nearly 100 times that amount of money on The Force Awakens, spent nearly 100 times that amount of money on The Rise of Palpatine. She spent 50 times that much money on Solo, more than that for Rogue One. What, $300 million plus on The Last Jedi? Blew it up, destroyed it, collapsed it. $6 million got George Lucas Star Wars in 1977. And yeah, I know there's inflation. Trust me, I know. George Lucas parlayed that $6 million into one of the biggest, if inflation adjusted, I think still maybe the biggest besides Gone with the Wind movie of all time. Lucas parlayed that into a multi-billion-dollar merchandising machine. Kathleen Kennedy got nearly 100 times more than Lucas did for his films to make her own with Disney. Lost money collectively on it when you put all the streaming stuff in there, and then took the merchandising from a juggernaut and turned it into a carpet stain. With the exception of the Lego contract they still have. But the stuff that Lego sells is all classic George Lucas Star Wars. Nobody's buying Rey. Nobody's buying Daisy Ridley. Now, look, and I will say, Daisy Ridley in that picture looks pretty hot. I wish she'd dressed like that or looked like that in Star Wars movies. Might have been more interesting. Does anybody think that this is going to do well? No, I don't. But have fun with it. Keep pumping money down this same septic tank over and over again. If you ever get anything out of it besides shit, let me know. Who cares? I don't know what this means for the future of Lucasfilm. I genuinely don't. I mean, I would have thought by now. This, to me, seems like a desperate grasp by Kennedy herself. I don't know who put this rumor out. I haven't even read it. George Nolfi, known for his screenplay work on movies such as The Bourne Ultimatum and Ocean's 12, has been tapped to write New Jedi Order, the Daisy Ridley-centric Star Wars movie. Yay. The hiring signals continued faith in the project, which was announced to great fanfare almost 2 years ago at Star Wars Celebration in London, but has seen several high-profile writers fall into the trash compactor. The hiring signals continued faith in the project. With all due respect, bullshit. If they had faith in this project, they were supposed to start principal photography on this, what, like 2 years ago now? Give me a break. Nobody should have faith in this project. Documentary filmmaker Charmine Obaid-Chinoy is due to make her narrative feature debut with the project, with Ridley due to reprise the role of who cares. Charmine Obaid-Chinoy, remember, this was the chick that said, I enjoy making men uncomfortable, because that's exactly what Disney needs more of. By the way, they're not getting rid of DEI. We'll talk about that Sunday. Disney has already filed their annual proxy for 25. Thanks to Jonas J. Campbell for picking up on that. I haven't had time to keep up with it lately, but we will be, of course, covering the Disney earnings call on February 5th. So stay tuned for that. We will be here live. Damon Lindelof, Justin Britt Gibson, initial writers, and then Obaid-Chinoy was brought on. Then it was Stephen. So there were four. Okay, there were just two in the beginning. So I knew there was a total of like four already, or 3 to this point, and now we're on writer number 4. Okay, I was right. October 24, Stephen Knight was off, in which we knew. We told you in the beginning. It was like, there's no way he's going to hang around. And once the Peaky Blinders movie was announced, I told everybody he's done. Oh, no, he's not done. There's no rumor. Nobody's saying he's gone. I'm like, he's gone. Honestly, I don't even know why Stephen Knight signed up for this thing in the first place. Not Stephen Wright, not the famous funny comedian guy. I don't know why Stephen Knight even signed up for this in the first place. He's frankly too good for it. So they have to keep going out and trying to find writers who are so desperate to take a big fat Disney check that they just don't care. That's the only people who are going to work on this movie. And this is the headline of this segment, is that the only people that they are ever going to get from this point forward to work on Star Wars projects or any Lucasfilm project, especially as long as Kathleen Kennedy is there, are going to be D-list people that just don't give a shit. They need to find somebody who will do nothing more than follow Kathleen Kennedy's instructions and be a yes man. That's it. Bringing in somebody like Charmin Obaid-Chinoy as the director is just a scream of, we could not find anybody better. This idea of using diversity, equity, and inclusion to give people like Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, or whether it was her or Nia DaCosta, another one. You had the guy who did the Lion King Mufasa movie, who had no business doing that movie. Disney loves to hire people of color under their diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative to headline $200 to $400 million major intellectual property motion picture projects that they frankly have no business running because they have literally never done anything remotely like that before. Barry Jenkins from Mufasa talking about how he'd never done anything like Mufasa before and he would never do it again. I'm paraphrasing, but not by much. Charmin Obaid-Chinoy is just a woman that probably gets along splendidly with Kennedy and is going to carry all of Kennedy's politics into Star Wars, and that's why she is still there. How Charmin Obaid-Chinoy is still attached to this project when all these other writers have come and gone is just hilarious to me, and it tells you the level of abject incompetence at Lucasfilm and at Disney. It's a company that just basically beclowns itself and lights itself on fire. The script delays have pushed back any hoped-for production starts for the project. Mandalorian and Grogu set to be released May of next year. Again, who cares? Instead, the next Star Wars movie that will be the untitled project from Sean Levy. Great. Again, will anybody care? That one got a major boost by capturing the interest of Ryan Gosling, who is now in negotiations to star in it. Ryan Gosling in a 25,000 years before Luke Skywalker started. This is the one that Sean Levy's doing, right? Or is that... No, that's Michael Mangold. Oh, James Mangold, not Michael. James Mangold. Sean Levy's the guy that did Deadpool and Wolverine. Again, it's a hodgepodge of mess. You look at this, and it's like, look, who put this story out there? Ask the question, who put this story out into the ether? This was not an official Disney announcement, insofar as we can tell. This probably came from Kennedy, once again, trying to revitalize her relevance as a studio head, for which she has none. This is a desperate attempt for probably a woman, Kathleen Kennedy, who, let's face it, Kathleen Kennedy just had to suffer watching Donald Trump win the presidential election. All these directives are coming out about no more diversity, equity, to inclusion at the federal government. We've got Fortune 500 companies dropping like flies their DEI departments. Kathleen Kennedy, I think, is trying to hold on to some last sense of relevance in Hollywood, as again, she has none. And this is probably an angry, bitter woman lashing out, trying to get the last few gasps of attention with the Hollywood media. And the problem is the article, if you read between the lines, in my opinion, illustrates the unmitigated failure that she is as a Hollywood professional and a studio head.
she probably needs to go back to fetching coffee for the men that brought her to the dance, because that's when she did her best work. It ain't been anything since 2012.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.